Miracle Monday. Miracle Monday is the last day of the push, right? Almost every push week in our business ends on Monday. There's some summer conferences that we do on like Thursday, and maybe they'll let you sell up through Wednesday and still count it for the push week. But most push weeks, especially RDC, always end on Monday. All right? So here's what Miracle Monday is. Miracle Monday is the last day of the push. Commit to leaving it all on the field no matter what. Give it everything that you have, no matter what. I'm going to tell you guys 2 quick Miracle Monday stories. All right? Number 1 was Sean. Or I'll tell you mine first because Sean's is cool. But my Miracle Monday story for that 30K push, right, a couple years ago, was simply this. We worked a show on Saturday, Sunday, and we thought it was going to be a great show. We were going to destroy it because we were already having like our best weeks ever. And we went into Saturday and Sunday, and we got done with the show, and Sean had sold like $700, and I had sold like $300 in 2 days at a show. And I was like, we were both just completely defeated. We were sitting there thinking to ourselves, man, we didn't have the weekend we thought we were going to have. I'm $6,500 away from my goal. Sean is almost $8,000 away from his goal. And we have 1 day left, right? And I've only had, at this point in my career, 1 day where I sold $6 grand, and Sean's never had an 8K day, right? So we went out for a beer. We were gonna, wallow in our own sorrow. But during that beer, we asked ourselves, we asked each other, like, hey, so what do you think about tomorrow? Should we go for it or not? Right? It's Mother's Day, by the way. I have 4 appointments. Luckily, Sean has 0. So Sunday's Mother's Day, we're having a beer, show's over. Monday is the last day of the push. Sean has no appointments, and I have 4, right? And they're decent appointments. I think they're gonna go great. We committed to ourselves that, you know what, no matter what happens, if we don't hit our goals, as long as we work all day tomorrow to the very last minute and try, at least when we get there, whether we hit our goals or not, we know that we gave it our best. And there's no reason we would have to have any regrets as long as we gave it our best and we left it all on the field. And that was what we committed to in the very beginning, that no matter what, we weren't going to let each other give up, right? So we decided that we were going to do something. And no matter what it took, we were going to work all the way to the end until we hit our goals. Or at least we tried, right? So I start the day off 0 for 4, right? I think, well, I got a good chance to sell at least 2 or 3 grand on these appointments. 0 for 4. No sales for the day. I'm still $6,500 away. It's 5 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm not going to hit my goal. I called Sean. He's like, how'd your appointments go, man? I hope it was awesome. I'm like, yeah, actually, 0 for 4. No sales. All the way across the board. He's like, what? He's like, well, what are you going to do? He could hear in my voice that I'd given up at that point, right? He's like, dude, you still have 7 hours to make phone calls. If you call people on the West Coast right now that are your customers, they're like, if you call them at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night, it's still 8 or 9 o'clock their time. And I'm like, that's a good point, right? So I was thinking to myself, what can I do? What am I doing right now to generate CPO? I pulled out my computer and I opened up my customer list and I started calling all my past customers and saying, hey, I need a favor. I've never done this before. I've been selling CUTCO at this point for 7 years, right? So I was totally outside of my comfort zone, doing something I'd never done before. But I was doing it anyways because I was committed to leaving it all on the field and giving my best shot. 5 hours later, right? It's 11 o'clock at night. I roll on my last order to put me over $30,000 for the push. Sold $6,700 that day. Because I had faith in the goal and I was applying the Miracle Monday equation. All right? Sean's story, even cooler. Sean goes home after that beer that night, right? On Mother's Day, and starts making phone calls to people in the area, like the only good leads he has that he hasn't called yet for appointments. He gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drives 3 hours to do appointments, to be at his first appointment by 7:30 in the morning, okay? He gets 5 appointments set up that day. By the end of the 3rd appointment, he's already sold $7,500, right? That day sold almost $9,000, ended up getting over his goal of 40K and beating it by almost $1,000 and setting a new record for the push week, right? And you know what's funny is he had one customer ordered $6,000 from him that day at like 11 o'clock in the morning. I remember getting the text. He's like, hey dude, it's 11 o'clock, I'm at 7,500. And I was like, crap, I'm 3 no sales deep already. What's going on, right? So when he told me that story, I was totally inspired because what happened was he shows up at this guy's address that he gave him. The guy didn't tell him where it was or was, where he was going or anything. He just come to this address. Shows up, it's this huge skyscraper, right? And he goes in and he's like, hey, I'm here to see so-and-so. And they're like, great. They call up so-and-so and they're like, okay, 90th floor, right? Goes all the way up to, it might not be the 90th floor, it might be the 30th or the 50th, whatever. Top floor of the building, right? Walks in and it's this guy's office, very top floor of the building. And Sean's like, is this your building? He's like, yeah, this is my company. And he's like, wow, shares his goals, gets the guy really fired up, does everything we've talked about so far, has complete faith that even though he's so far away, he can still make it happen, right? And the guy says to him, you know what, Sean? I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you hit your goal. And you know why? The only reason I set this appointment with you is because you called me on Mother's Day. And I built my business and got to where I'm at today by doing the things that most people wouldn't do. So I was inspired by you calling me and asking for the appointment last night because you were calling me on a day when most people wouldn't make phone calls to set up appointments because it's Mother's Day. But you called me anyways. That's why I had you over. And now I'm really inspired by your goal. And he called called over the loudspeaker for the entire building and said, everybody come to the conference room because we're gonna help this guy hit his goals, right? And he had that guy bought gifts for 20 different people and it ended up being a $6,000 order, right? How awesome is that, right? Had he not made calls, had he given up during that period that we had he gone home and said, well, I'll make calls tomorrow morning, would he have gotten that appointment? No, right? It was only because he had full faith in his goal and he was going to have a Miracle Monday no matter what. And while I was making calls during the last 5 hours of the day, he was at home hanging out because he already hit his goal, right? So you never know when it's going to happen. Just have faith and put your all into it, leave it all on the field. Here's the miracle equation. You should apply this from this point forward. Unwavering faith plus extraordinary effort equals a miracle experience. And the thing is, if you're really going after your push week and trying to do something you've never done before in 2 weeks, most of you should be considering that whatever you're going after a miracle. Whether your goal is 5K or 10K or 20K or 50K or 100 grand for a push week, you probably should be thinking, you should be thinking wow, this if I do this, it's going to be a miracle because I've never done anything like this before, right? But if you have unwavering faith and you put in extraordinary effort every day throughout the entire push week, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. At the end, whether you hit your goal or not, you should have no regrets because you left it all on the field and did everything you could to get there. Why not? It's only 2 weeks of your life. Why not go after it?